Hey everybody, it's Phil Strazula from Select Software Reviews, and today we're talking about how rewards and recognition can help build a high-performance culture. I'm here with an expert in this area, Jason Lindstrom, who is the CEO of Bucketlist. Jason, thanks for joining us. Super excited to dig into this, unpack some of the tactics, the stories that people can utilize to build a high-performance culture. Do you mind giving us a quick background on yourself, what you do, and kind of why you have the expertise to talk about this topic?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question, Phil, and I'm excited to be here. I'll maybe give a quick personal intro, then more of the professional backgrounder. But so personally, I'm a dad, got two little girls. I got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. My fun fact is I'm pretty good at walking on my hands. And then I'm not going to do it for today's interview, but actually maybe at the end we'll see what we can pull up. And then professionally, culture is like very near and dear to my heart. Over the years, I've had the chance to build kind of three high growth tech companies. And in the early days, I wouldn't say I got culture right. I did some things right. I did some things wrong. But over the years, I learned to see the power of it. It's like a huge lever to help companies really succeed. And if I was to fast forward to today, to Bucketlist Rewards, we've been really deliberate around building a great culture. So we built some really great systems and processes. We've really invested a lot in hiring the right type of people and then supporting them with the right type of growth, leadership, and mentorship type of tools. And it's really paid off in a lot of our key metrics. For example, we've grown over 3,000% in the past 3 years. We are recognized as one of the top 50 best workplaces in Canada for 2 years in a row, which is kind of cool. We recently did an employee net promoter score where we asked employees out of 10, how likely are you to refer a friend to work at Bucketlist? And the average score is 9.6 out of 10. And so culture, we've invested in culture, and it's really paid off in our revenue. Our culture as evaluated by outsiders, and then the employee net promoter score. And then to kind of pivot towards like, what does Bucketlist Rewards do? We are an enterprise rewards and recognition platform. And it's cool. Like what we found is like you take good care of employees, they stick around longer and they perform better. For example, we can lower turnover more than 40%. And what I find even more exciting is we can really lift employee engagement and move the needle on a company's bigger goals. So we can help companies achieve their big objectives, whether it's like increasing sales through sales rewards, increasing innovation through innovation rewards, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a quick overview to myself.
Sounds like you've got the right expertise and experience for today's conversation. And I'm looking forward to watching you walk on your hands at some point, maybe today, maybe another day.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you mind just kind of setting the table with some of the more common issues as well as opportunities that companies face when building a workplace culture?
Yeah, I think there's number one, I think there's like a process and procedure to do this. And in the absence of a process and procedure, like culture will happen whether you want it to or not. And in my experience, you want to be deliberate about it. And so I think a couple of key things to do, like foundational pillars I think you really want to get your vision and mission straight and clear. And then once you have your mission and vision like really clear, like ours is to help build the best cultures in the world. And we also have a vision document, for example, that's about 10 pages long. We wrote it actually about 3 years ago, and it lasts 3 years. And it's kind of a look into the future, and it describes exactly how we want to show up in the world and all the impacts we want to have. So you want to have a clear mission and vision for your organization, and you want to share that with all applicants. You want to be talking about it on a quarterly basis so the employees can see where you are in the journey. And you want to refresh it periodically. For us, we just chose 3 years. But like people get excited about the future, and if they can be a hero in that company's journey, if they can contribute and help the company achieve its objectives, they're going to stick around longer and again perform way better. And then also, I think it's really important to have clarity around your values. So at Bucketlist, for example, our values are to raise the bar, to get it done, care for customers and each other, and to achieve life goals. And we celebrate those on a daily basis with a recognition program. But yeah, so I think mission, vision, and values are like the foundational meat and potatoes, and how you roll those out really matter. Because like I described what we did, and I think we're doing an okay job with it. And there's some good things we're doing. And then on the flip side, like maybe not the right way to do it is like the old school mentality is like you find your values, you print them up on the wall of your office, which your employees may not even come into anymore. Or you have like your mission inside of an employee handbook that nobody ever sees and never gets talked about. So it's not enough just to have those exist. Your leadership team has to bring them alive and do a lot of storytelling to make them really compelling. But I think once you have the mission, vision, and values and aligned and alive and well in the organization, you're off to a great start. And there's a ton of tactical things that stack on top of that. But those are, from my point of view, like a couple of the best levers to put in place in the early days.
Do you mind giving us a taste for one or two of those tactical elements that you can use to implement?
Yeah. So when it comes, and we're talking more generally about just culture building and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share some of the things that I personally enjoy and I think add a lot of value. For example, I think people want clarity in their role. And what typically happens, and this is great, like people have a job description, a JD, saying like, hey, here's your role, here's what's expected. We also have something called the job scorecards, which are kind of like 3 simple KPIs explaining exactly what is expected of an employee. In my experience, if you can keep things simple and easy, people are gonna utilize those tools more often. So we have job scorecards. That wasn't my idea. It was from a book. I believe it's called Who, the A Method to Recruitment. It's all about like how to bring great people in your organization. But job scorecards have been great for us. I also think providing clear career paths for staff so they can understand how they can move within your company and achieve their own goals and dreams. There's nothing more satisfying than empowering somebody to understand where they are today and how you can support them as a leader or a company to achieve what they want to get to next. And then some of the other kind of cool things that we've had a lot of success with is I always think it's important to like lift your team up where it makes sense. And we've rolled out a mentorship program at Bucketlist, and Gartner did a study of mentorship programs and found that on average, they have a 600% ROI. And then personally, I have a mentor. I've had a mentor from day one. And I think there's a couple of things you need for a mentorship program to be really successful. I think you have to have a willing mentee, like somebody who wants to be coached. You have to find a good mentor. And those 2 people also have to align. Like ideally, they should be a bit aligned on values. But when you bring those 2 people together, you can like, there's magic, I believe. And like the best mentors are those who have a playbook around where you want to bring your company to or where the employee wants to go to. So they've already paved the path and they can share best practices, tips on how to achieve their goals. My mentor, for example, is a guy named Sasha Williams. It's super funny. Was the past president of a company called Unbounce. I grew up in Vancouver. Unbounce is kind of like this local tech success story. They just crushed it, had tons of growth, really good culture. And it was funny because at first when I reached out to Sasha, I didn't have much success. I was trying to connect with him on LinkedIn. It was only years later where we just randomly connected I was pitching our company to a venture capitalist, and he happened to be at the boardroom table. He had already kind of retired or exited out of his company. And I'm there pitching away, and there's this guy in the corner with glasses on. I'm like, I recognize him. And afterwards, he's like, hey, my name's Sasha from Unbounce. Like, I was like, get out of here. I was like, let's do coffee, let's hang out. And we ended up becoming really good friends. And he mentored me like for free informally for like a number of months. And then it turned into more of a structured thing. And maybe a couple of quick tips. We have like a full mentorship playbook now. But things I've observed is you want to find like world-class mentors. You want to pair them with really good mentees. We have people apply to the program here. So like to understand who has a desire or maybe not a desire for a mentor. And then you want to establish a regular cadence for them, which is typically like weekly, bi-weekly, or maybe monthly for them to connect and move the relationship forward. Well, those are some things that I think are a little bit unconventional, but also like deeply value add to build a great culture.
How do you think leaders can use rewards and recognition to build a high performance culture?
Yeah. Um, so I think what I've witnessed and observed, and I mentioned up front, is there's 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 two things rewards and recognition does really well. It can help lower turnover, but turnover is kind of a lagging indicator. There's normally a good reason why people are willing to quit, but on the positive side, when you look around, like a lot of the world's best cultures, they all have rewards and recognition programs in place. Like, and I don't know if you're gonna like, so for example, Disney, they have a really well-defined rewards and recognition program. Google has a program in place, and even some of the more conventional government organizations have recognition and rewards programs in place, like the Marines. And I'm really intrigued by that because, like, typically what gets recognized and rewarded inside of an organization, you'll see more of that behavior. So like the Marines is an example, like they do a really good job of telling these hero stories inside their organization where they recognize people for like living values like courage and valor and honor. And whatever people are getting recognized for, other people or employees will think to themselves, I want a story told about me as well. And so as an organization, like you can use recognition to create like truly heroic acts. Like you can, like in the military, which I have a deep respect for, people are willing to give up each other's lives to support the person beside them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the stories that get told inside those organizations. What's like the culture, the heritage, and the legacy inside those organizations. And that's just another form of recognition. And when you scratch like a layer deeper, like recognition applies to all humans. I don't know. Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs by any chance? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Like at the bottom is like food, shelter, water. And right above that is the desire to be appreciated, loved, respected by our peers. And that's all recognition is. It's like it's tapping into the foundation of what we are as human beings. And it's encouraging people and it's providing a model for how to be the best inside of an organization. And like to make it a little more tactical, I think for those who might be listening or who really care about it, when you focus rewards and recognition on specific problems or opportunities inside your organization, you can really move the needle. So over at Google in the early days, for example, they had something called the Founders Awards, and those are given out for innovation and really impactful programs. And two winners of the Founder Rewards, one was Google AdWords and another one was Gmail. So employees were working away feverishly trying to create these super innovative programs that generated revenue. And if you fast forward to today, I think AdWords is by far the largest revenue contributor for Google, like billions of dollars of revenue, and rewards and recognition played a role in that. Obviously, there's other things that went into it. It wasn't just that, but like if you want to create innovation, you reward and recognize innovation, and that as an outcome, 100% you'll see that. At Bucketlist, for example, customer service is near and dear to our hearts. And so one of our values, as I mentioned before, is to take great care of customers. We also have something called the Net Promoter Score Award. So anytime a customer gives us a 9 or 10 out of 10, we celebrate that. We actually have the highest customer satisfaction score in the industry. We have the highest Net Promoter Score. So like rewards and recognition is a fantastic way to align your staff to drive performance and really good outcomes.
That's amazing. Do you have any tips for engaging remote workers?
Yeah, so awesome question. Very, very timely, I think. When COVID first hit, we had a whole bunch of companies reaching out to us saying like, how can rewards and recognition help better connected companies? And there's a ton of ways to do it. Like I'll just share some tactical, maybe quick wins. So in my experience, most distributed companies, they'll have a bunch of tools in place, like an email program like Outlook or Gmail, or maybe an instant messaging program like Slack or MS Teams, and just launch a recognition program inside those tools. So like if you use Slack, just create a channel called Core Values and have staff recognize one another, and just have staff add a little hashtag for the values and start recognizing one another. And then also to add on to that, celebrate those on a regular basis. So for example, most companies will have like a monthly fireside chat or maybe like a quarterly check-in. It's really important for senior leaders to pull that Slack channel up and go back in history and kind of call out some of the great work that's happening and have leaders and peers share the deeper story. Because a lot of times people might write 1 or 2 sentences, but it's really important to give a chance to tell the deeper stories behind deeper stories, just to make it, to bring those examples to life. So yeah, plug into people's technologies, make it super easy to use, and then celebrate them in some sort of real world environment, whether it's face-to-face or a virtual meeting like Zoom.
Awesome. Do you have any thoughts on how how HR teams should contemplate the ROI behind a stronger culture?
The ROI
Of a stronger culture.
So I guess I've read a ton of books about it. I don't have any cool stats off the top of my head. What I can point to is my own experience. Like in the first organization I built, where culture was like, I'll give a number out of 10. This is arbitrary. I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. We were growing maybe at sort of 30 to 50% per year, but that's nowhere near the 3,000% over the past 3 years we've seen in our current organization. But there, if you Google like what's the ROI of a good culture, there's so many fantastic stats that go really deep on the power of it. The one really cool thing I've recently observed though is like for startups, like you have to get product market fit figured out first. Like you could have the world's best culture, but unless like you have a fundamentally a decent a product that solves some sort of problem in place, like it doesn't matter. Culture is a multiplier. It doesn't solve the core use case. So just something to bear in mind when you're thinking about building your organization. The one other thing too, especially for senior leadership teams, is like you can build like culture is sometimes held that as a somewhat abstract thing. Like, hey, let's build a great culture, but like culture is what you as a leader live in on a daily basis. And like, in my experience, we've spent a huge amount of time at work. You might as well build something fun and you enjoy going to on a daily basis. And like, that matters a lot. Like if you want to, so in my experience, with my third company, for example, I've really focused on trying to hire people I love to interact with and they're fun to be around, that also live our values and are high performance individuals. But it never hurts to have a super fun workplace that you enjoy spending time at.
That's awesome. Completely agree. Last question before we wrap. I'm just curious about your opinion on leadership's role in shaping culture.
Yeah, I think I have a whole bunch of thoughts on leadership, but I think like everything rises and falls with leadership, and you need somebody to care about it. Ideally at the SLT C-level, like. Because whatever leaders tend to, like another saying is a fish rots from the head down, right? Meaning like if the leadership team hasn't truly bought into culture and seen the value of it, I think that'll be reflected in the organization. And so if you have like a God forbid, like a money hungry CEO who's just trying to wring the value out of the organization, that's going to be an incredibly hard place to build a high performance culture. It can be. Versus where you have a lot of like really progressive CEOs. They both care about people, the culture, and building, of course, a high performance organization. And that type of environment will be way easier to build it in. So you're going to need for sure executive sponsorship and like true buy-in.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I know, Jason, we're sort of out of time here, and I really appreciate your time, your experience. If anybody's watching this and wants to learn more about your work, about Bucketlist, how should they get in touch?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is to just go to our website, bucketlisterewards.com. And then please feel free to look me up, Jason Lindstrom, on LinkedIn. I love meeting new people, especially people from the HR and culture building space. So please feel free to connect with me there.
Thank you very much.